Mash, Director of Workplace for Figma, that I'm extremely excited, as of course because we're avid users. Love Figma, love what you're doing. Also following you across all social channels, everything. Would love to hear a little bit from you about a few things, of course. First thing is company culture. Figma is really known about creating community both outside of the company but also inside. Would love to hear from you a little bit how it works. How do you see this?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, Liza. It's a pleasure to get to connect with you today. Figma, first and foremost, is, for those who may not know, is a software collaborative tool designed in the browser. And so essentially think about it as the Google Docs for design. And it allows our non-designers and designers alike to really collaborate within the tool. And so I would say that with us moving to a remote environment, I would say that the adoption of our tool only increased exponentially over the last year. And so it was amazing to kind of see the trajectory of employees, users, our customers utilize over the last year. And so that really just changed the trajectory of Figma's business. And so I would say that over the last year, we really had to kind of reanalyze, the values that we had before, do they really align with where the trajectory of where the company is going now? And so most recently, early last year, we decided to refresh our values. And so what we did is we...
Very timely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just only makes sense, right? The company is moving such at a dramatic, fast pace, and it was important for us to make sure that we could really be in alignment with the direction of where Figma was going. And so we decided to refresh the values, and that was without, a lot of user research. We talked to our own employees. We wanted to understand what did they like about our previous values, what were things that they'd love to see change. We got a lot of feedback, and so I would say that I'm so proud of the values that we came up with recently. We just actually introduced them recently to our team. And so 4 values that speak to us, and you spoke about it just a moment ago, is about building community. That's one of my favorite values because it really speaks to our users and who we support. Have really been along the story with us. And so it was important for us to make sure that the magic that happens with our users, we can also bridge that gap with our Figma employees as well. Second value that I think really speaks true to us is run with it.
I love it.
Right? Run with it. And it essentially means, take a task, take a project, and really own it from beginning to end. Challenge yourself, push yourself out of your comfort zone. And so that was really important to us to make sure, especially given the trajectory where we're taking our company.
Yep.
Third is love your craft. I knew you'd like it.
I like, okay. That's the reason why we love Figma so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important to make sure that we love what we're doing and that we're owning it wholeheartedly, and we're also showing the why. Why are we making the decisions that we're making? And so that was really important for us. And last but not least, grow as you go. I think given the trajectory of where Figma is going, growing as a company, it's important to make sure that we're all providing direct feedback to each other, but we're doing it with grace and humility. And so that was really important to make sure that aligned with our culture and the values that we want to bring, for future years to come.
First of all, amazing. And I think it's such a timely matter to actually really understand what are the values and how to implement them, especially in this new remote work surrounding, let's just say.
Absolutely.
And I think maybe let's discuss about you.
Yeah.
Director of Workplace. What does it really mean, and what's the difference between that and HR roles and specific things, and how do you see this?
Yeah, I mean, I think my role is really interesting. I would say specifically, I joined Figma about a year ago.
Tell us about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was literally in the office for 2 days. It was a very surreal moment because I was in the office for 2 days. I was hired on to really help build out offices, elevate the employee experience, think about what are some of the new initiatives that we wanted to bring to our employees. And then, of course, the lockdown happened. And that just really kind of turned upside down, right? And it was such a surreal moment to really now rethink how do we, first and foremost, we were very much 100% in-office employee culture, as a lot of companies were. And so to go from that to 100%
fully
remote, you know, of course, we had to really re-strategize and think, okay, well, how do we continue to provide an amazing employee experience, but now virtually? And so that was what I was really tasked with in my new role, given that I couldn't open offices yet. And so in doing that, I think...
What an irony, basically.
I know. I mean, I think even though I wasn't really responsible for the workplace anymore, I think it was more or less, I was responsible for the comfort and the support of our employees, given these tumultuous times. And so I think I've been fortunate over the last year or so to really see how much we've really connected as an organization over this time, which has been really challenging for everyone. And then last but not least, I think there's a glimmer of hope that we're seeing now. You know, a lot of companies right now are starting to think about what does it actually look like to bring our employees back to the office. And so, you know, I think it's fortunate that we're here at this moment where COVID cases, at least here in California, are starting to decrease. Vaccinations, I mean,
finally.
I know. I mean, I think vaccinations are starting to rise, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And so now we're really starting to plan, and I think, you know, I'm partnering with our HR folks. I'm partnering with our legal teams, our people functions to really think about what does that actually look like to bring our employees back to the office. And so unfortunately, there's no playbook for this.
Sure, and every company is different.
Exactly. So we're just really, you know, kind of learning at the skin of our teeth. But it's been a really enjoying experience so far.
And if you can share with us, like, what were the insights that you learned across this full year, basically, of fully remote? Things that you focused on employee experience. What did Figma provided for employees for their experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I think the employee experience at Figma is twofold. I think one aspect is we wanted to make sure that a lot of the traditions that we did in office we could still hold on to those in a remote environment. And so,
how do you do that?
I know. I mean, I think it was really challenging, right? I mean, I think there was definitely a little bit of Zoom fatigue for folks. And so I think it was important for us to curate events and do different types of activities that really would bring our team along. And so one of the big traditions that we did as a company was called Makerweek. It's an in-office event. It was a week-long event. Think about it as like a hackathon.
Okay.
But it's not technically focused. It's more really anyone and everyone across the business can utilize that 1 week, and we do it twice a year, that 1 week where we spend that time to work on a project that's outside of our daily responsibilities. And so it's also an opportunity for our employees to collaborate with other teams that they normally wouldn't work with. And I think going back to this collaboration, we wanted to make sure that we were also able to utilize that with our own employees.
Yeah. And your own users, yourselves.
Exactly. And so, I mean, I think there were many times, you know, that I've spoken to, you know, our employee base, and they're like, I wish I had time to do this project, or I wish I could do this. And so you could use that opportunity during Makerweek to build something new for the team. Think about an efficient way to make your life easier in your day-to-day. And so we were also able to use that week for people to do team building activities, cooking, baking, making chai, all online. And then at the very end of that week, we would present our presentations. And it was amazing to see how much good projects came out of that. And some of it we've actually implemented into our products, which has been amazing to see. And one really great mention I'd love to mention is Makerweek Musical. We actually put together a musical of the entire company. We had people across the world.
Zoom? How did
via
you do
Zoom.
this?
I mean, we have some very talented employees who orchestrated such an amazing 30-minute musical. So if you Google Figma musical, you'll see it. And I promise you, it'll be very catchy for you to be singing the song.
For sure, right in the notes.
So I mean, that's just one way that we continue to elevate the experience virtually. We do something really out of the box. Definitely has been challenging. I mean, I think a lot of the other traditions that we've done is Cafe Figma. It started as a tradition in the office where, you know, people had a love for espresso. We actually had 2 Figma employees bring their own espresso machine to the office and made espressos for everyone. And it was a really great way for folks to collaborate, connect with each other, and really just socialize. And so we actually brought that virtually. And what we did is we sent coffee and tea to everyone, and
Wow.
we imitated that in a virtual environment.
I love it. I love it. I think that there are a lot of good creative ways, I think, in the sense that came out of this.
Yeah.
And I think that we'd love to hear your thoughts about what's next. Basically, I think that all of us experience remote work to an extreme, which is not what we really think remote work is about. It's not sitting at your home 24/7. I'd love to hear how you, what do you think is next for Figma, especially when you already mentioned you're an office-based culture, very focused on that.
So the future of work, right? I think it's really actually interesting. I think early summer of last year, our founder, Dylan Field, and our VP of People wanted to really kind of pulse our employees. How were they feeling? It was already about 4 months into the pandemic. And we wanted to understand how were our employees feeling 4 months in. And I think it was a very mixed range of emotions. Some people loved working from home. Some people loved the flexibility of, you know, waking up and just having their laptop there. I think, you know, they're on top of that, people love not having to commute. You know, I mean, especially here in the Bay Area.
Your commute is like from your bed to your office, to your home office. Yeah.
Exactly. But on the flip side of that, I think some people were also dealing with isolation at home. I think we were also dealing with some employees who had families, kids that they had to tend to. I have 3 kids at home, and so that was also a challenge to be able to navigate, you know, my role as well as take care of my children. And so I think it was important for us to get the data to understand how our employees truly felt about working from home so that we can come up with a plan for the future. And so it was very telling that the data showed that our employees, one, missed the office. They missed those serendipitous moments where I could just walk up to you and really just have a casual conversation.
Tap on the shoulder.
Exactly. How do you mimic that in a virtual environment? It's really hard to do, especially in a very intentional way. And so it was important for us to really analyze the data and determine what made sense for our employees. And so one thing that we found is that our employees wanted to come back to the office. They didn't want to be there 5 days a week. I think people have just learned to adopt to this new type of new normal, and so people want flexibility. And so what we decided to do is our founder actually wrote an article about it called how work is changing, specifically for Figma. And so we decided and adopted a hybrid work environment. We wanted to make sure that, one, we can cater to our employees' needs, 2, be able to provide flexibility for them, and 3, the way that we're doing that is we're telling folks, if you live near a hub location, one of them being San Francisco, we're going to ask, once it's safe to do so, that you come to the office at least 2 days per week. And so it's not just any 2 days per week. For example, you know, I may come in on a Monday, Tuesday, and my colleague may come in on a Wednesday, Thursday. We would never see each other. And so I think we're really intentional about making sure that they were 2 specific days per week so that we can
all come together.
Exactly. You know, it was really important for us to make sure that we can see each other so we can socialize, we can collaborate. And that's how we wanted to utilize our offices. And so we're also thinking about how do we use our offices differently, because employees can simply do the work that they're doing at a desk at home. And so if they're going to come to the office, they want to socialize with us so that we can get work done.
And how do you see this? Basically, first of all, I love everything that you say, because I think that the role of an office has changed.
Absolutely.
And it's much more on the collaborative aspect.
Absolutely.
How do you see this? How do you envision Figma's new offices? How do you see this in terms of collaboration, communication, or
Yeah, I mean, I think Figma in general, I think there's no playbook for this. I think we're all trying to figure out what makes sense specifically for our employees. And that's data that we're taking right now, surveying our employees to understand what do our employees really need right now. We know that our employees will do some sort of remote in-office, and you know, some people may remain 100% remote, and we may have some employees who will come into the office more often than not. And I think what was important is to make sure that we can bridge that gap with our remote employees and our employees that do want to come to the office. And so how we're thinking about the office is to make sure that we're really intentional with how we utilize it so that our remote employees still feel that they can be a part of that employee
I think this is a
experience.
huge thing. You really make remote employees still feel included.
Yeah.
With people that come to the office once, twice a week, it's still a big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think our remote employees, I think we really have to be intentional in terms of how we include them in the conversation. I think that's something that's been very top of mind for the leadership team, on my mind, in terms of making sure that our remote employees feel engaged, that they are part of those decision-making processes, as well as they have a seat at the table. I think communication is going to be really, really important. And I think of it in two ways. One, we need to make sure that we're over-communicating, because especially since we're all living virtually, or not living virtually, we're all living remotely, it's important that that information doesn't get lost in translation. And so it's so important that our employees feel that they have the information that they need in a timely manner. Secondly, I think asynchronous communication is the way to go. Our employees, we're not all going to be in an office environment. We're not all going to be meeting with each other, having these conversations.
Not even in the same time zone.
Exactly. And so we have to work more efficiently. We have to really think out of the box in terms of how do we continue to make sure everyone gets the information the way that they need, in order that we can make really quick decisions. And ways that we've done that is monthly newsletters. As a company, we send out newsletters to talk about what our other teams are working on, how the business is doing, and so that's really been helpful, especially for our new hires. They're the ones who have really doesn't know what the past was like, and so I think those monthly newsletters really help to give them an insight into what we're doing in our day-to-day.
It's amazing. Yeah. I think feeling that inclusiveness, I think it's super important.
Absolutely.
And I think, to your point, you surveyed a lot of employees. What were the biggest challenges for them? How did it affect their productivity? Let's say, has it increased? Decreased?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest challenges of working home, I think one thing that we've noticed is, it's really, especially for folks who've been isolated, I think one thing we notice is people feeling isolated is affecting their mental health. I think, again, me as a mom of three, having a new job, also homeschooling. I mean, I think you're basically doing 2-3 jobs at once. And so I think a lot of that are all challenges that we sought after. And so one thing that the People team did is we actually partnered with a company called Modern Health. And what they do is they provide free coaching and therapy sessions to all of our employees. They also provide specialized sessions for employees depending on what they need. Of course, there's been a lot of turmoil even outside of within our walls, within our homes, and we wanted to make sure that our employees have the support that they need to go about their day. In addition to that, we also, for our parents and our caregivers, we actually provide a stipend to all of our parents and caregivers so that they could use towards caregiving of their kids. And so that's actually been very instrumental to helping support them in their time of need. We've provided meditation sessions. We also provide cardio, fitness, and those are all grassroots. These are actual employees who are facilitating all of our cardio, yoga. I mean, we have some really, we have a derby, an Olympic derby participant, and so she does cardio, all ab workout. I mean, it's the gamut.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. It seems like Figma has a huge community, both internal and external.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the internal community. How do you facilitate it? How do you create this sense of belonging, basically, even in this virtual world? I know physical, of course, we discussed it. Let's say it's easier. Yeah. How do you see this in the virtual, especially going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's been really important in terms of just the employee experience is making sure that they feel supported, included. I think because we're all so distributed now, I think it's important for us to have a pulse into what our employees are doing. So I think, we do quarterly engagement surveys to really understand how our teams are doing, how they're feeling, and we're able to iterate on that information to make modifications in terms of how we can provide support to our employees. We recently opened we're in the process of opening an office in New York, and we have teams in London, and so we're not just thinking about it, from a San Francisco perspective, we're thinking about it from a global perspective, especially as we remain more distributed. And so it's really been top of mind for the leadership team and myself in terms of how do we continue to make sure that we're keeping our employees engaged and supported along that way.
Amazing. I'll ask you a vision question.
Sure.
What's your vision for the upcoming 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of our biggest visions, I think, is again going back to the remote folks, right? I think what's important for Figma is, as we're thinking about bringing our employees back to the office, how do we continue to make sure that we keep our remote employees a part of the conversation and engaged? I think it's easy to say, oh, we're back to an in-office environment, but it's so important to continue to make sure that remote employees have the support that they need along the way. In addition to that, I think what's important for Figma and other companies alike is making sure that the culture that we envision for our employees is not built around our office, but it's actually built around our employees. I think it's critical, especially in this stage for Figma, that we think even beyond that in terms of how do we continue to support them. And then thirdly, I think also we need to develop a business continuity plan. Knock on wood, we don't go through another pandemic.
Yeah, we cannot.
But one thing that we're also thinking about is, what does it look like if for some reason there is, or there is another potentially natural hazard disaster that comes up, and I think we need to be more prepared so that we have a playbook for every type of situation and the business can continue to run as well.
I love it. I think one of the key points that you said right now is basically now, even for new employees, but also current employees. Pre-COVID, I think a lot, especially for office-based companies, you sell like the office experience, right? When an employee comes, like they see this amazing office, but now you sell the culture. You sell the company culture, and I think it's such a huge shift in terms of decision makers. Like, how do you actually create a culture that is sustainable, but also you can really pass this through your employees to understand? It's fascinating to me, and I think it's a huge. In my view, it's still like unknown how to really build this. Right.
Yeah, there's definitely no playbook for this. I think we're really learning as we go, and that's okay. I think it's important for us to really be iterative in the process and take, really, utilize our engagement surveys from our employees and really understand what they need so that we can continue to kind of make changes as we go. I think we're still a fairly small company that, those can really make a really direct and immediate impact to our employees. And so we're always thinking long term, what does that look like for them?
And I think I like the fact that you also do a lot of surveys, and you said there is no playbook. And I think the vulnerability aspect, I think also for a company to say we're not sure, we don't know, but we will figure it out.
Absolutely.
I think it's also part of being open towards our employees and getting this back.
I think the one thing that we've learned throughout this entire process is you have to be resilient.
Wow, exactly.
I mean, we have to be so nimble, and I think we're all really just perfected that, I feel like.
Had a year to practice.
Exactly, and so now we're kind of in this new phase of potentially bringing our employees back, and so how do we meld what we've learned over the last year and bring that to the office in a hybrid approach?
Sounds exciting. You have a lot on your plate, for sure.
Yes, I
do. Final question. First of all, Config was last week.
Yeah.
How was it?
Amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, so this was my second Config conference, second virtual Config conference. And we launched a new product called FigJam, and it was just amazing to see how delighted our customers, our community was. I mean, it was just so amazing to see. And so I think, when I think about how proud we were to showcase, the amazingness of what our Fig employees were able to do, and how that really, was able to be translated out to our community. It was just like this. It was such an awe-inspiring experience, and we had such a diverse panel of speakers. We had over 60 speakers speak from all spectrums and speaking about design and non-design alike, diversity, DE&I. It was such an amazing experience.
And I wonder, Config is of course one aspect of how you create community.
Yeah.
Also, of course, outside Figma. But were there any things that you've done internally that you would want to do also for the community, or in general, like the community feel? How do you do this? It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to our values, build community, right? And so the one thing that we really wanted to make sure we did with our community and our customers was surprise and delight them, right? And so we've been able to do that by providing different little product enhancements and, of course, announcing our new product, Fig Jam. And so, to replicate that also internally for our own employees, we always constantly think of various ways to surprise and delight our own employees. And, various ways is just doing team building activities, happy hours. Obviously a lot of people are fatigued from Zoom, and so we're really trying to think out of the box of how do we continue to keep them engaged throughout the entire process. Our Figma employees love swag, and so anytime you can send them, and so do our Figma community users as well. They love our swag, and so I think if there's little ways that we can help to delight them, we've even sent snack boxes to our employees, curated fruit boxes for them. I mean, just to keep them well nourished. I think there are so many things that we're trying to do to continue to provide and keep that employee experience up while everyone is continuing to remain remote.
I just love it. Definitely going to apply some of the things to the Gable team. Oh my God, it's amazing. Thank you so much. I loved everything that we talked about. I'm so happy to have you here.